Now, Executive Suite with WPRI.com reporter Ted Nisi.
Welcome to Executive Suite. I'm Ted Nisi, always glad to have you with us. Well, today we have on a CEO I have known a long time, since I was a cub reporter at Providence Business News. Quite a few years ago. I'm even greater than him now, which I don't know how that happened, folks, but it did. Jim Grace. Jim is the founder and CEO of InsureMyTrip. They're based out of Warwick. It's InsureMyTrip, but it's smooshed together one word with capitals. Jim, thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
So, Jim, as I said, so funny. I was reading up to get question ideas. I found one of my old stories when we were talking way back, so we've plenty to catch up on. But for folks who aren't familiar with the company, just at a high level, tell them what you do at InsureMyTrip.
Sure. So we are the largest travel insurance comparison site in the U.S. We also operate in Canada. We've got about 28 companies and over 1,100 different products in our systems. And what we do is primarily sell direct to consumer, so you and I. So you would be my customer, but we also have deals where we work with travel agents and online travel agents, some of the big boys, and tour operators and that type of thing.
So you're the one to go to when someone wants to insure their trip,
yes,
get insurance.
Yeah, the name does speak for itself.
It really gets it across, right? To be clear to people, you yourself are not the insurer.
That's right.
You are you're a go-between to help people find the right insurance policy from the others, right?
Right, that's right. We are an insurance agent at core, but we also think of ourselves as a technology company that sells insurance. So that's sort of our niche, because we're about half technology people, half insurance people. Mm-hmm. So it's a very unique place to be, and primarily we sell online, but we have a very large call center that's really cool.
Yeah, you have. Yeah, I've seen a video of it down there. That is an amazing spot. I remember, as I said, when I was covering you a decade ago, you guys were growing then. Talk a little about the company, how big your operation is today, and what your footprint is.
Right now, so we own the building down in Warwick, and we're about 100 people. Right now, we're looking at adding probably between 10 to 15 people next year. So it's been a nice growth trajectory for us. Like I said, about half customer care, or they're all insurance agents. So they're all licensed in all 50 states. They sit in our call center, which looks like NASA. So we monitor world events across large screens, just because as people call, they have to know what's happening in the world and how to advise people which products are best. Mm-hmm. And then the other half of this group is software developers, designers, data scientists, quality control people, and we are very, very on the cutting edge of machine learning and artificial intelligence to do some really cool things to identify the right product for you, which might not be the right product for me, depending on where we're going, the makeup of your family, the age of the people. So it's really a fascinating company that way.
Yeah, I was thinking, I think when you and I were talking a decade or so ago when I was writing newspaper stories about you guys, I don't think AI was much of a conversation yet back then, and now it's something all over. And you've been interviewed recently about that. Talk a little about how, because AI I feel like is one of those things, people hear about it a lot, but it can be hard, especially if you're not in the technology space, to think, what does that really mean? It's a buzzword to people. How concretely has that affected how you do what you do at InsureMyTrip?
Well, at its core, it's all about data. It starts with data and getting really good data. And artificial intelligence for a lot of people is a bit scary. What is it? How does it work? But essentially what it is a way to understand data in a better way using massive algorithms to pull out the information you need to make smart decisions. And deliver it. What we're trying to do is deliver that to customers. So we have 20 years of data. We have real-time external data, what's happening in the world. We know where you're going and what's happening, and we have 1,100 products. So what it does is it takes all of these components in to make smart decisions, and we call it SMART, about which product.
SMART is like the name of the system.
And it's an acronym, but it has no meaning, but it sounded cool.
Yeah.
So, but to make really good decisions as to what product's right for you. And like I said, it could be different for you and me and your listeners, and that one of our goals is to get it exactly right for each person. And out of 1,100 products, they're all different. So the one that you buy and the one I buy might be completely different. which is really important.
So I want to talk about travel insurance as a product a little bit. You know it well. And, when you think about it, we all have that calculus with all insurance, right? The risk reward. All right, well, I could put the money out and then I don't need the insurance because I don't want my trip to be canceled. So do I try to pocket it and, play the odds? Sure. But then again, I'm going to be bummed if this expensive European trip doesn't happen and I'm out of the money and all that. I assume you wouldn't suggest buying it to drive to South County.
Right, exactly.
So what, what do you think, your job is to sell people travel insurance, but also to help them understand when they need it. When do you tell people this is when you need to start thinking you're going to want to have had that?
What we think about, the way I think about it first is start with medical insurance. That's one. While your domestic health insurance might cover you internationally, many don't, and they're not very good at it. When you're in Italy or South America or Korea or wherever you're traveling or Japan, they won't know how to help you. So start with medical, make sure you have it. Number two is make sure you have what's called medical evacuation insurance. So if you are hurt in some strange location, they will take you from that location to higher care, and many will take you home as well if you're injured or ill or sick or whatever it might be. So I start there, and then the next step is you have to evaluate what you're willing to risk. So for some people, $1,000 or $500 trip is a lot of money, and they should insure it. For other people, $2,000 or $5,000 is sort of where they're comfortable insuring. So it's really a personal decision. The products that are best are these combined products that include them all, and they're a package. They're called comprehensive travel insurance policies, and they include all those benefits. But understand your tolerance for risk. Look at what the expenses are should you get sick, your flight get canceled. A great example is you're flying to a cruise and the cruise is for 7 days. Well, your flight's canceled. There goes the cruise ship.
Right.
And they don't really care that you're there or not.
It's not like a TV show where the helicopter brings you and drops you on top of the cruise ship.
It doesn't quite happen that way. So you've missed your cruise. The cruise did nothing wrong. And now you have a $5,000 problem or a $3,000 problem. Are you willing to lose that? Probably not. The other thing to think about is...
What do you think it would cost to insure a 3 to 5? And I know there's a big range, but...
It's usually 5 to 7% of your trip cost. So, $150 plus. But also recognize that there are 1,100 products at your disposal. And oftentimes when you buy through an airline or a cruise line, you're getting one product. And that one product may be tuned to do things that you don't need. So it's really important to shop and understand what you're buying. And that's why I formed InsureMyTrip, because I wanted to know why are there different products and what's better for me. So that sort of was the beginning of why this whole thing was created.
All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk more about how InsureMyTrip got created and what's in the future for the company. Stick with us on Executive Suite. That's a good idea. Welcome back to Executive Suite. I'm Ted Nisi. Glad to have you with us. This week we are talking to Jim Grace. Jim is founder and CEO of InsureMyTrip. InsureMyTrip.com is the website. It's a travel insurance comparison and purchasing site, and they're up to about 100 people down in Warwick. And actually, we're in 20 years, right?
Yeah, that's right. This is our 20th
anniversary in 2020.
Yeah. 20 and 2020. We talk about 2020.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So, talk to us a little about the origin story of the company. How did you come to found InsureMyTrip? Where did the idea come from, and how did you get it off the ground?
So my background is engineering and computer science, and I worked for a company called Grumman making military aircraft. Thought that was really cool. I did that about 4 years and was involved in some of the early internet, hooking Grumman to what was called the DARPANET, which was really interesting. There was no email. It was just files going back and forth.
You're dating yourself, Jim.
Yeah, I know. It's a little scary. So moving on, right, then I recognized that I wanted to learn some other things, so I learned insurance, and I worked with my dad and learned insurance, and in 1994 launched the first travel insurance website with one product. That was great, worked great for 6 years.
1994, so you're on like the old Netscape,
real early. Oh yeah,
like maybe two
those
pictures.
Weird CompuServe emails with numbers and stuff. And then so in June 2000, well before June, in '99 I got the idea, I want to compare these products. I just have to start there
because I'm curious. So you saw early, you're like, you hear from like Jeff Bezos about what he could see, where he thought things were going when he found Amazon. You saw in '94 when not that many people were using the internet. And e-commerce, everyone was petrified of credit cards online.
Really, travel was the first usage case of the internet. with airlines and otherwise. And I saw the opportunity that travel and insurance, a unique product, was really the right product at the right time. Grew that for 5 or 6 years and said, I've got to create a marketplace where all travel insurers can get their products online and we can understand what the differences are. June 2000, in my basement, 1-year-old daughter on my shoulder, right, putting the final coding touches on the website. I launch it at midnight. A woman from Maine buys 5 minutes later. A woman from somewhere else bought right away. She starts crying, I'm crying, my wife runs downstairs, what's wrong with you people? You know, so it's all working, honey.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it really launched from there.
That must have been an amazing site. You press publish on the website
like,
or
go,
whatever,
right,
and then
upload.
waiting for something to happen, and then you make
thinking
a sale.
it might not work.
Right, or is anyone to find it?
Right. And it really did work.
And now here you are.
Yeah.
So what have been the big, 20 years, what have been the big moments that got people either thinking about travel insurance more or really helped take InsureMyTrip to another level with your penetration in the market or how much people were using it? When you think of sort of milestones in the course of the company, what comes to mind?
I can think of 2 to 3. One was 9/11 was obviously a big impact for everybody. And initially, I had just started the company, and then travel got quiet. And that was a little scary as a company as well.
Sure.
But what happened was, immediately thereafter, everyone who traveled bought travel insurance. So it was a wake-up call that travel insurance does protect this type of event and can, in fact, protect travelers should it happen again.
Because because I can imagine where people's minds are going, not just, God forbid, you're in a terrible disaster in traveling, but if the whole country's flights were shut down for a while.
Cancellations, it's all that type of thing. So when they're, whether it be weather or otherwise, if travel isn't happening, this type of product protects you. So the next big event was the volcanoes in Iceland. So what happened was people were stranded on both sides of the pond.
Right.
And that was a wake-up call because millions of people were on one side or the other side and couldn't get there. We were sending people around the other way to get home, the long way.
Yeah.
But also other events remind me, like even 2008, the financial crash, people bought more travel insurance after that because that same investment they wanted to protect. So there were little changes. So when I started in the industry, about 7 to 8% of all travelers bought travel insurance. Today, it's in the 20 to 25% range. It's not everybody, but it's a growing market, and we're fortunate to be right where you need to be successful.
Do you think the internet's made it easier for you can just you consider it, so you're like, well, I'll go, and you Google and you end up on InsureMyTrip and you start to think about it. Do you think that's made a difference?
That's definitely helped. I think the other places, you're offered it at airlines, at cruise line checkout, and those products are often very thin. They cover very few things, and on the airlines or some other areas, it's $20. There's not a lot of coverage in that $20. So a lot of people have purchased those benefits, and then they realize that they really need travel insurance, something a little bit more robust, and they come and find us. And that's one sort of vehicle that gets them to InsureMyTrip.
Let's talk about a concrete example. So as I said, we're taping this beginning of 2020. These horrible fires in Australia, we're all seeing the pictures. It's extraordinary. That's a popular travel destination as well. How does something like that affect right now InsureMyTrip when you see it's happening around the world, but that's your business?
Sure. Well, there's 2 ways. One is, so the people that were traveling to Australia are concerned. And there are certain policies that will allow you to cancel even if your destination is not necessarily affected yet. The other thing is which policy to buy now if the fire is going to continue. Now, it is a little tough to buy insurance. Let's say your house is on fire. You can't buy insurance for your house. The same sort of thing happens here, but there are products that are still critical that you should be considering, like we talked about, medical evac, and others, if you go there.
To what extent is it a live market where I'm thinking of the stock market every second is repricing everything based on the news of the day and the headlines. Do you see on the back end at InsureMyTrip the insurers, their Australia policy that the day before the first fire started was X, all of a sudden it's X plus 20 and then you're watching it go, do you see that live?
It's not quite that. But there are dynamic rules and things, but they're all filed products. So every product we sell is filed in all 50 states. So there are very, very tight guidelines on pricing and what they can and can't do. So, but they are dynamic.
They more likely to just pull them off the shelf then if we're not going to sell one right now?
That happens. That does happen, depending on what's going on. Or they'll say, no more travel insurance sold to Australia. And they haven't said that, but they have said it for Iraq or some of the other destinations, Cuba, or any of the OFAC countries, also North Korea, any of the
and I assume it's also if you just call volume, right, of people asking about the policy or kind of should I get a policy and everything just skyrockets when there's something like this.
So what happens is, we have 45 insurance agents. They're licensed in all 50 states, and they're there to help you find the right product for you. They do a consultative sales approach, so they listen, they understand what you're concerned about, and out of the 1,100 products, they will get it down to a few that they feel would be most appropriate for you. And it's not a hard sell. We will listen, and if we don't sell the product, that's okay too.
So your bet is on, if you build the trust that we didn't do the hard sell and we gave you good advice, over time that's a better business bet for you guys.
Yeah. If you do the right thing for the customer, over time, it's better for you and the customer in the long term.
And they're probably going to take another vacation at some point.
We hope so. Yeah, exactly.
All right, we're going to take another break. When we come back, we're going to talk more with Jim about running a technology company in Rhode Island and what the challenges and opportunities are there. Stick with us on Executive Suite. Welcome back to Executive Suite. I'm Ted Nisi. Glad to have you with us. Joining me today, we're continuing the conversation with Jim Grace. He is the founder and CEO of InsureMyTrip. They are a website that helps people buy travel insurance when they're taking a trip down in Warwick. And Jim, we were talking before the break about being a tech company, and you've always been you're one of those like cool tech guys. You're a licensed pilot. You're a sailor, and I'm curious. You've talked before about how you wanted, when you founded InsureMyTrip, you didn't want that kind of really cold and impersonal corporate culture.
Right.
What has that meant in terms? How have you effectuated that at the company, and why did you care about it?
Well, I think, at a tech company, you want to be attractive to lots of different people. And what we did is, we have a very flat management style. It's me, I have 8 directors, and then everybody else. So I feel I want to be connected with everyone, and we grew the company that way, so problems get solved quickly, answers get answered quick, questions get answered quickly, that type of thing. And also, we have a very I am way overdressed for our office right now. So we are jeans, no ties, and very, very comfortable, and shorts during the summer. So it's that sort of culture. We have people half our people are at stand-up desks, and I stand all day, and it's better for you. So we do hackathons where we say every quarter, 3 days, teams get together and work on a project of any choice, anything they want to do. So you pair some product people and some data science people with some developers, and they work on something not necessarily even for the company. Maybe they've learned something, maybe they want to try something. So it creates an environment where people really enjoy being there.
The other thing is, with the environment, it matters who you hire, I assume, and the people you bring in is important.
Yeah, we're very careful about that. When I started, when I was hiring, I'm like, wow, you're going to work for me? This is great. Now it's completely different. Now what we do is they're very screened, and we also use a system we call Colby, and Colby is not a personality test. But what it does do is it identifies how you instinctually act and go after a problem. So if I give you something like create this cup, do you start creating? Do you go for data? What are all the types of cups? Do you make a plan first? Or do you need to start touching and feeling it and starting to create it? And we build teams based on these Colby scores.
Because there's no wrong answer, right?
Everyone's a winner on that. Yeah, you can't flunk the test.
Yeah, right.
But it's really valuable to have all these different instinctual people that instinctually act in different ways. So you want, my tendency is to start building.
Yep.
And maybe yours
Engineer.
is. Yeah, exactly. And I need to touch and feel it.
I'm a reporter, so I start Googling.
Right. So you need more information.
Yep.
Yeah. And then other people say, let's get a plan before we start. So when you build these teams and identify how they respond and react, it's really a powerful way to build a company.
I'm going to be thinking about that when we get off there. That's fascinating. Talking about people, you're a tech company, as we've been talking about. based in Rhode Island, not Silicon Valley or Cambridge or some place that's a big hub for the industry. Some of the state people would kill me to hear me downplay us as a tech hub. But one challenge we always hear from tech executives on the show is about talent, just finding enough of a pipeline of software developers, application people, stuff like that. Sure. How have you seen that yourself, and how have you tried to address it?
We've seen it. What we try to do is we try to create, like you said, a culture. First that's attracting people and also retaining people. People stay with us for a long time. The next thing we've done is we've worked with a lot of the local schools, CCRI, URI, and others, as a feeder into us. But we've been very successful, too, in drawing people out of Boston, out of Connecticut, and other areas into our area. People sometimes go to Boston and other areas for a little bit more money, but they also get burned out and they don't enjoy it. So what we see is people coming down back to us, and if you've got all the right stuff in place, you've got an environment where people are attracted to it, and you can grow.
Yeah, and how far does that raise go with the house prices around Boston right now, right?
Yeah, exactly, right. Yeah.
So, along those lines, state leaders always looking for ideas, suggestions. How do they get businesses like yours to stay and grow further? How do they attract more businesses like this and any other type? Sure. What comes to mind? What if a state person was here and said, what should we do, Jim? What comes to mind?
One of the biggest things, and it's not necessarily state, but it is state as well. I feel like I'm one of the most regulated people on the planet. So we are licensed in all 50 states. We have to know 50 states of information about regulation. We're licensed in Canada. I'm a pilot. That's irrespective. So I have to know a lot of FAA regulations. So all this sort of overlies and does slow us down. We spend just in licensing $250,000 to $300,000 a year, just in licensing, just to make sure that all of our 45 insurance agents are licensed in all 50 states to do business. So there's a big sort of underlying expense that goes along with regulation, and that's a tricky thing.
Yeah, so finding the ways to have the appropriate level, but not overdoing it and burning people.
Yeah, but we will always do it right. So we are 100% licensed accurately. Other people in the industry may not be, and we watch them very carefully.
I'm sure you do. Yeah, exactly.
So we've always taken the highest road there.
You mentioned you're a pilot, and I have to ask. One of your employees mentioned to me, they said, you got to ask Jim how he flies into TF Green to go to work.
I do, yeah. So what happens is I actually lived in New Hampshire last year, and I flew every day from New Hampshire, Pease Air Force Base to here. And I'd fly in the morning and then fly back, and I just love flying.
How long did it take you? What was the commute?
That's about a half an hour, as opposed to a 2-hour drive.
Right, yeah.
Now I live in Annapolis, Maryland, and I come up on Monday and I leave on Thursday. And it's about an hour and 40-minute flight.
You just love being up there.
I fly more than I drive, actually. I added it all up, and I actually fly more. And I just love it. It's sort of my special space where I can think, and I love working with FAA and others.
So less than a minute left. What's next? What are you excited about for InsureMyTrip?
InsureMyTrip right now is at a great point where we can go and look at some global opportunities. Right now we're in the U.S. and Canada. Travel insurance is global. There are markets where we feel we can really do well, and we are now looking for sort of that next sort of horizon. We've mentioned Australia, Brazil, Europe. All these markets are really high quality markets for travel insurance, and we're looking in that direction.
All right, well, we'll be keeping an eye. We'll look for you in the skies.
Thank
Jim,
you. Yes.
Jim Grace, founder and CEO of InsureMyTrip, thank you for being with us this week, and thank you for joining us for this conversation. Remember, you can catch all episodes of Executive Suite on WPRI.com, or you can subscribe to our podcast on iTunes. See you back here next week.